This is an Intex Shark from 2012. Frosty Shark, frosted clear vinyl. As all of their toys back from 2012, it's pretty stiff. Maybe the stiffest kind of vinyl were used in inflatable toys. Maybe you can hear it. Let me unfold it so it's maybe more visible how stiff it is. It's all stock, inflated a couple of times before. Let's look at the valve. I don't know if it's visible, but it says 2012 on the valve. It's pretty obvious. We were making them back then with these huge warning labels. Well, it's not that huge relative to some other their toys. Going to fix it. Going to make it properly soft as an inflatable pool toy should be. Let's inflate him so it will be more convenient this way. Inflated this boy. As you can see, there are some scuffs of the paint on the eye, and some are visible on his grin. Yeah, not the best kind of paint, and stiff vinyl gets you this. Stiff vinyl, as you can see, inflated fully, maybe pretty tight. In my opinion, it's a bit more convenient to plasticize an inflated toy, because it's all smoothened, and thus it is easier to control the distribution and avoiding seams. Now to the topic of avoiding plasticizer getting on the seams. Since this is going to be plasticized from the outside, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick an isolation tape along the seams. The kind of the insulation tape I'm going to use. It is quite narrow, but not too narrow, and more importantly, it is not too sticky, so it should not leave sticky traces behind it after the removal, unlike duct tape. Yeah, nothing. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Nothing special in here. Just glue this tape. Just stick this tape along the seams. As you can see, it barely sticks, which is good. All we need is we just need to avoid plasticizer getting on the seam. When looking for any strength or integrity here. Temporarily measure. Just to cover the seam. This tape will help guide you when you will be distributing the plasticizer. Barely sticks. It's nothing bad in that. In this case, perfect for this case. Barely sticks means barely leaves any traces. I will avoid the seams on the dorsal fin here because we don't seem to be under any kind of stress. And it's going to be kind of tricky to go along all the seam on the fin because of the wrinkles. Wrinkles a bit tricky but doable still. Maybe I should have gotten a tad more sticky tape because it doesn't hold well at all. Today we are going to plasticize on it only the top side of this toy. Next time when it soaks in, it will be the bottom side of this toy. Yeah, I'm not covering any flat seams like in here or connection to the handles here because they are pretty strong. I don't think plasticizer will do measurable damage to them. Although I will advise not to cover these parts with too many plasticizer. Either way, it better be smooth and evenly distributed along the surface of the toy. Now to the plasticizing itself. I'm going to use DINP, the best known plasticizer for inflatable toys. It is important to not overdo the softness, because it is harder to reverse it than to add more plasticizer later. So for a stiff toy like this, it did not leach, it is new, just stiff vinyl. There's nothing tricky here, just be sure to wear protective gloves. How it's done? Oh, this is how I do this. I think red. Carefully distribute it with my hands, not adding any of the plasticizer onto the isolation tape itself. Doesn't mean I care about warning labels, but there are more important paint for along the way. And just adding a thin layer. This whole bottle is about 40 milliliters of volume. Now it's a bit more than a half full, and I'm sipping only drop by drop. Narrow threads and carefully massage it so it evenly lies along the surface. As you can see, paint doesn't care because it is DINP, not ATBC. Getting shiny. I can see parts where it already partially soaked in. It takes hours to days and maybe to a couple weeks to fully soak in all you add. It depends on the vinyl itself, on how the vinyl is hungry to plasticizer and how much of the plasticizer you add, and obviously on the type of the plasticizer. But I'm talking about DINP, so hours is the least and a couple of weeks is the most. I inflated this shark pretty tightly, a little bit more than full, and you can see it's right in front of your eyes how it soaks in. Covered one half of the top of the shark, all shiny, and this is how much I have left in the bottle. Did not change much. I don't use syringes, they are inconvenient. Plasticizer acts like a resistance at first, and then the syringe starts to move, it starts to act like a lube, and so it's hard to control. This on the other hand is a very convenient bottle. Now onto the other half, which I did not yet covered. Like this. Well, if I don't massage it back down this way, then that's enough. This is about how much I added on the other side. And if I add another thread here, that's pretty much how I did it. In exactly this way. Should get soft eventually when it soaks in. If it doesn't get too soft, I can add more. If it gets too soft, oh well, I don't think it will get overly soft over this amount. Why have I added less in the first place and then decided to add more? Because I saw how on the other side it already soaked in on some parts. It tells that the vinyl is indeed pretty stiff and requires quite a bit of plasticizer to make it soft. Now as you can see, the shark is all shiny, all covered in DINP. Well, the top of the shark. Bottom half is still dry, otherwise I couldn't. It's just not recommended, so you don't scratch or paint, you don't mess up your surfaces with DINP. Now it's time to wait until it all soaks in. If it doesn't soak in fully 2 days from now, I'm going to clean the rest with alcohol and water mix, because I think it will be quite soft by then. And this is how much left in this bottle. So it was a bit over the half, and now it is a bit below the half. 24 hours have passed and it's like half soaked in, half of the plasticizer by how it looks. It's still wet, but it is already measurably softer. So it is not so liquid anymore, the plasticizer on the surface. As you see, the paint is not affected. Although plenty of the plasticizer had run down, you can see these threads. I'm not going to touch them, they won't be noticeable after I plasticize the belly side of this shark. However, if I had no such plans, then I would definitely keep an eye on them and prevent this. We'll be wiping them again and again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out the belly seam, if there is plasticizer, any of the plasticizer got in there. If it is the case, I'm going to clean the parts. Well, I see one big spot here. From this stain. And a smaller spot here. Let's take a look at the front. The front part looks a bit messy. Well, I don't need to clean it anyway, since I'm going to add plasticizer anyway. Yes, here's another spot. Yep, I think that's it. No critical, highly stressed points on the seam or touched by this plasticizer. I'm just going to remove it with a sponge. This point here. Now we're here. Kinda plasticizing the seam, yeah? I guess I have to use an alcohol to clean it fully. Yeah, well, yeah, then let's get some alcohol. Alcohol in excessive quantities on vinyl makes it stiffer. But I just did wet a bit the sponge. Yeah, well, ideally you should not allow this in the first place, and if you see a plasticizer running down like this, you just remove it higher there again and again until it stops doing so and becomes less liquid. Just showing you how it could be done the hard way. As you see, even adding alcohol to the mix didn't do much. Definitely didn't do much damage to the paint. Alcohol makes the plasticizer, well, with ATBC this is a catastrophic effect. Absolutely removes the paint altogether. I had a paint incident when I was adding alcohol, when I was adding DINP, mix it with alcohol to my penguin. There is a mark of paint removed due to this, so this is possible. What do we see here? Yeah, the shark was stored in a rather cold room, which has 22 degrees of Celsius average temperature, yet about a half of added plasticizers already soaked in after 24 hours. Given I inflated him pretty tight, so it all matches up. So to speak, putting this shark in a room did not change smell signature in that room at all. As I said before, I already inflated this shark a few times before. It is not new and it doesn't smell like a new vinyl toy, so adding DINP did not change it much either. Yeah, though the DINP has its own smell. If I try to smell it very closely near the surface, it is a tad different, but it doesn't change the smell in the room. So yeah, then you're preventing these stains to occur. You don't use alcohol on anything or water. You just take a bare piece of cloth, or like I did a sponge, and just smoothen them. Or you can do it with your hands in gloves, like I showed in the first place. Just don't allow the plasticizer to leak back down. It makes there is no reason for that. 48 hours have passed since the application, and well, it's quite a bit softer, and almost all of the DINP has soaked in. Well, there are still some, I'd say about 20 or 30% of DINP haven't soaked in yet. I can of course wait 1 or 2 days until it fully soaks in, but it is already getting pretty soft, and it will get quite a bit softer over time due to even distribution of the new plasticizer through the vinyl. First of all, let's remove the insulation tape. We aren't going to need it anymore. As you can see, no plasticizer traces under where it was placed, nor are there any sticky traces from the tape itself. So therefore the scene was protected from the plasticizer weakening effects. First of all, let's spray our toy with water. Oh right, there's another insulation tape I forgot to remove. Okay, now let's cover him in water first. The parts what were covered in plasticizer. And the dorsal fin, our side. What we do next, we take a piece of cloth, wet it with alcohol, put some alcohol in it. It quickly evaporates, so do not be hurry. Don't wait for too long. And mix it all with the alcohol. Alcohol will grab all the remaining plasticizer, all the free remaining DINP, and it will become one uniform mix of water, alcohol and DINP. Alcohol quickly evaporates, so I can't cover the whole toy with alcohol in one take. So the part I already did. Next, what I do is I take another cloth, microfiber cloth, and collect all the wet stuff what is on the surface. This is as you can see, no damage to the paint, none at all. Absolutely none. Now I will clean the rest of the toy in this way. It is already covered with water and with DINP under this water. Now I only need to add alcohol and then wipe it all clean. Now after I cleaned the shark, I don't need the gloves anymore. Let's examine the toy. Paint, as you can see, is not affected at all. In fact, it got stronger because the softer the vinyl, the better the paint holds. Shark itself got quite a bit softer. It still maintains its material properties, however, I'd say now it is softer than the Intex toys from phthalate era. Yesterday it was about the same softness as the Intex toys from phthalate era, about 20 years ago and back. And it will get even more softer after the DINP distributes evenly inside the vinyl over time. It's not as obvious on the smaller parts, but on this bigger, on the back, on the face, it's pretty obvious, well, for me at least. I wasn't trying to get a balloon out of him, and obviously it didn't become a balloon, and obviously it didn't become a balloon. However, he got softer, a touch softer than the toys from phthalate era. This is what I was aiming for. Now, the first thing to mention, to notice, where the point along the seam where isolation tape was glued on, or sticked on, you can see there are some stick out parts of the vinyl itself. Like here, this is not a sticky residue. This is excessive plasticizer, which got stuck on the edge of the isolation tape, which is good, which is perfect, because the tape didn't allow it to being stuck to being stuck on the seam itself. So no damage to the seam, and these things, they will smoothen out over time, not affecting the seam itself. As it was intended. Now for the cleaning part I did just now, I want to show you something. This is what will happen if you let the alcohol rest for some time on the surface. So you cover it with alcohol and you right away wipe it, or otherwise it will start damage it, or otherwise it will start to damage the paint together with the plasticizer. And next will be the belly. I probably will not film it because it is the same procedure. Overall, cleaning after plasticizing, I don't recommend doing it. It's just more work, unnecessary work. Calculate how much plasticizer you need to add before you're doing this, and wait until it fully soaks in. In my opinion, it is easy. It is longer, although it takes a longer time, but not need to wash anything. Soft. Just didn't do this before. This spot I added DINP and started to massage a bit too aggressively, so it is because of the wrinkles. Yeah, it's on the edge of the paintabilities. Yes, wrinkles make it harder. Paint on wrinkles make it harder, and you need to be more careful.